I went to a family reunion at my grandparents' old cabin by the lake a few months ago. I'm 34, a history teacher, and hadn't seen most of my family in years. I thought it would be a nice chance to reconnect. The cabin was built in the 1970s, filled with old photographs and mementos. Felt nostalgic, but something felt off. As the sun set, I joined my family around the campfire. We shared stories and laughed. Seemed nice, but I sensed an underlying tension. My aunt whispered something about a family secret related to my grandfather. I didn't catch every word, but it twisted my stomach. I felt drawn to discover what they were hiding. Later, I saw my cousins exchanging looks. Their smiles faded when my grandfather's name came up. Maybe it was my imagination, but the air felt heavy. I listened closer. More names surfaced, people I didn't know. Tragedies and strange occurrences slipped into the tales, along with vague remarks about my grandfather's past. I knew he died before I was born. I heard he was a great man, but now I wasn't so sure. A knot built in my chest. Why did they look so uneasy? I quietly excused myself and went inside the cabin. My heart raced. I started searching through old boxes, hoping to find answers. One box caught my eye. I opened it, and a chill rushed over me. It held dusty photo albums and faded letters. But something else was there, a leather-bound diary tucked away at the bottom. My hands shook as I picked it up. I shouldn't be looking at this, but I had to know what was written inside. Flipping through the pages, I saw mentions of arguments and harsh words. There were entries about lost friends and incidents that sounded strange. My grandfather wrote about a terrible event that happened one summer. As I read, I felt a dark weight settle over the room. It was hard to breathe. Suddenly, I heard voices outside. They sounded cheerful, but I froze. My family was laughing again, but it felt different, almost sinister. My heart raced. What were they discussing? I didn't want to go back out there, but I had to know. Was I from a family of heroes or something worse? I closed the diary and took a deep breath. I felt cold, more uneasy than before. I put it back in the box and decided to face them. When I stepped outside, I saw them staring at me. Their faces were blank. "What did you find?" my aunt asked, her voice low. Their eyes were locked onto mine, waiting. I hesitated. Maybe I shouldn't have gone in there. "Why are you here?" one of my cousins asked. Their expressions grew more serious. I wanted to run back inside. I turned to look behind me. Nobody was there. The laughter faded into a quiet tension. I stepped closer, confused. Maybe it was better to keep quiet, but at that moment, the flickering campfire illuminated their expectant faces, and I realized I was trapped between whatever secret they were keeping and the truth I desperately wanted to know. The moment hung heavy in the air. I wanted to freeze time, to take a step back into the darkened cabin where I felt safer. But I stood there, rooted to the spot, their eyes boring into me. I had to say something. I didn't find much, I stammered. Felt like a lie. The tremor in my voice betrayed me. The truth was, I wanted to scream. Aunt Clara narrowed her eyes, her brow furrowed with concern. "You need to understand. Some things are better left unexplored." "Is it about Grandpa?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. My cousins shifted uncomfortably. They wouldn't meet my gaze. "Not everything is what it seems. We've all made choices," my aunt replied, her tone sharper. "You must think carefully about this." All around me, shadows danced as the fire crackled. There was a weight to her words, each syllable loaded with meaning. I felt something shift in the air, a collective unease settling like dust. "Like what?" I pressed. I took a step forward, my heart hammering. Couldn't let this go. I needed answers. "What did he do?" My cousin Max finally looked at me, his blue eyes dark with something I couldn't identify. "You'll regret it if you dig too deep," he said. "You don't know the whole story." And there it was, that familiar knot in my stomach tightening again. My mind raced. What did they think I could discover that would be so terrible? Would I even be able to handle it? "Then tell me the story," I demanded, feeling more courageous than ever. They exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing among them. I could sense their hesitation, and it only made me more determined. A tense silence followed, leaving just the crackling fire to fill the void. Then my aunt sighed, her expression softening slightly. "Maybe it's time," she said. "Just promise you'll listen." An uneasy agreement hung between us. She gestured for us to sit back around the fire, and I reluctantly followed. The embers flickered orange and red, casting eerie shadows on their faces. "Years ago, your grandfather was involved in something complicated," Aunt Clara began, her voice low. "He made decisions that hurt people we cared about." "Like who?" I asked, hardly able to contain my curiosity. "There was a woman, a local. They had an affair and it tore families apart," she replied. "But that's not the only secret. There was an accident." "An accident?" I echoed, confusion flooding my mind. "Some people say it was no accident at all," she said, glancing at the ground. "Lost lives, threats that followed. It forced us to leave this place, to cut ties." Each revelation sent shivers down my spine. My grandfather wasn't just a man I'd never known. He was a figure shrouded in shame and regret. I felt like I was standing on a precipice, looking into a chasm filled with darkness. And just like that, everything shifted again. I spotted movement in the trees, a silhouette. My heart plummeted. Someone was watching us. "Did you see that?" I whispered, pointing towards the treeline. My family turned to look, but by the time they did, the figure was gone. "Just the wind," Max said, but I could tell he didn't believe it. "What if it's not?" I asked, my pulse quickening. It seemed clear this night was far from over, and now we were not alone. I couldn't shake the chill that crawled up my spine. My heart raced, and I felt the glow of the fire flickering shadows across my cousins' faces. We were all on edge. "Maybe we should go inside?" I suggested, my voice barely above a whisper. Max rolled his eyes. "Just sit down. There's nothing out there." Aunt Clara, however, seemed distracted, her gaze fixed on the treeline. There was something about her posture, a tension in her shoulders that made me uneasy. Then I noticed the scent of smoke, but not from our fire. It was faint at first, almost like a whisper in the wind. "Do you smell that?" I asked. My cousins shook their heads, but Clara's expression shifted again. She stood up abruptly. "We need to get inside now." Panic jetted through me as I followed her lead, the urge to run coiling in my stomach. We hurried into the cabin, leaving the warmth of the fire behind. Once inside, Clara shut the door hard, as if closing out something dark. "What's going on?" Pressed, my voice shaky. "There have been stories," she paused, looking each of us in the eyes. "About the land. It's haunted by the past, and it only stirs when someone speaks of it. Something is going on. Please, just tell me what you know." I was losing patience. Their reluctance was suffocating. "Your grandfather's mistakes came back to haunt us," Max finally muttered. "People here don't forget easily." Before I could respond, there was a knock at the door. It was a slow, deliberate sound, the kind that made my throat dry up. "Who is it?" I called out, my voice trembling. No answer, just more knocking. My stomach churned, and I took a step back, bumping into the table. I felt trapped in this small cabin, the walls closing in. "Just ignore it," said Clara, her tone more unnerved than convincing. But I couldn't ignore it. Whoever it was, it felt like a threat waiting to pounce. Then, without warning, the door swung open. I gasped, ready to fight or flee, but it was only the wind rushing in, a gust that extinguished our lantern. We were plunged into darkness, every corner of the room cloaked in shadow. "Max," I whispered, feeling for him in the dark. "What's happening?" "I don't know, but we have to stick together," he replied, his voice barely steady. Just like that, I realized I wasn't alone. The figure I thought I'd seen earlier seeped back into my memory, that elusive shadow lurking outside. What else was hidden beyond the trees? Then, amidst the suffocating silence, I heard it again, a whisper, soft yet urgent, drifting through the cracks of the old wood. "Help me!" A chill raced through me, and I froze at the sound. I had to know what it all meant. But whose voice was calling? "I found out something about Grandpa," I said, the words spilling out like a confession. Something worse than I imagined. What do you mean? Clara urged, the tension palpable in the air. I opened my mouth to explain, but before I could, I noticed something on the floor, a scrap of paper I hadn't seen before. It was crumpled and stained, and as I picked it up, my hands trembled. That S when I saw it. Words scrawled hastily. They know. It's not over. My heart sank. The secrets were far from buried. I felt the scrap of paper slip through my fingers, landing softly on the wooden floor. What is this? I whispered, panic swelling in my chest. The others came closer, their silhouettes barely visible in the dark. Aunt Clara bent down to pick it up. The tension in her face deepened as she read the words. We shouldn't be looking at this, she murmured, crumpling the paper tighter in her fist. What do you mean? I pressed, unable to bear the weight of uncertainty. If there is something wrong, we need to know. Max stepped in closer. Maybe we should just leave. Whatever is out there, it's not safe. His voice steadied me a bit, but fear still clawed at my mind. Then the whisper came again, louder this time, almost echoing through the cabin. Help me, did you hear that? I said, my body rigid. Clara shot a glance at the door, her face pale. Stop it, she hissed, trying to regain her composure. You're just scaring yourself. But the air thickened with unease. I wanted to convince myself that it was just a figment of my imagination, but it felt all too real. I had to know what was going on, and the need eclipsed my fear. What's the story about Grandpa? What did he do? I demanded, feeling a surge of frustration. Clara took a deep breath. He made enemies. People believed he took from the land. Things that didn't belong to him. They thought they could never come back. What, like ghosts? Max scoffed, but his bravado faltered. No. Her voice was firm now. It's much worse. There are stories of those who took revenge on families. Ones who were never forgiven. My mind raced. So what, the land wants to punish us now? What does that mean? Are we in danger? Look, it's just stories, Max said. But he avoided Clara's gaze. I could tell he was shaken just like the rest of us. Suddenly, the cabin creaked as if something heavy shifted outside. I felt my heart pound. We can't ignore this, I said. We need to find out if there's truth to those stories. Fine, Clara sighed, visibly tired. But we do it together. No more whispers in the dark. The thought of facing whatever was out there filled me with dread. Yet an inexplicable curiosity tugged at me. Maybe we needed to confront the horror head-on. How do you propose we do this? I asked, every part of me wanting to curl up and hide. Max rummaged around in the dark, searching for the lantern. If we light this up again, we could check outside, right? Before anyone could answer, we heard the sound of footsteps on the porch, slow and deliberate. Someone is out there, I said, my voice shaking. Clara gripped my arm, her fingers biting into my skin. Stay quiet, she whispered. But I couldn't stay quiet. I had to know. What do you want? I yelled into the dark, feeling the rawness of fear settle in my chest. Silence followed, and the footsteps stopped. Then there was a soft knock. That single sound shattered everything. The urgency clawed at my throat. Who's there? I called out, but dread seeped into my bones. A low voice responded, filled with malice. Help is what you want. But are you ready to pay? As the words echoed in my mind, I felt the ground shift beneath me. Secrets were coming to light, and whatever lay ahead felt all-consuming. The knock on the door hung in the air like a terrible promise. My heart raced, pounding against my ribs. I felt the fear spread through me, cold and heavy. Clara's grip tightened on my arm, her eyes wide with dread. We need to be quiet, she insisted, but her voice quivered. Why? I whispered back. What's out there? Max finally found the lantern, flicking it on with a quick twist. The light spilled across the room, illuminating our faces, but creating more shadows than before. I wished the lantern had never turned on. Stay close, Max said firmly, moving toward the door. I wanted to protest, to keep us safe in the corner of the cabin, but the sight of him approaching felt like the only logical choice. Wait, Clara hissed, taking a step back. What if it's... A trap. Then we'll face it together, Max shot back, though I could hear the uncertainty in his voice. The knock came again, softer this time, almost impatient. Help me, the voice called again. No way, I said. This isn't a rescue mission, we don't even know who or what we're dealing with. But the voice had a pull to it, a haunting familiarity that made my heart race. Did I know it? I took a step closer. Who are you? I yelled again, my pulse pounding in my ears. What if it's someone in trouble? Clara's voice trembled, but her eyes glimmered with curiosity as she glanced toward the door. Someone in trouble? Max echoed, his brow furrowing with disbelief. That doesn't sound right. Just because they say they're in trouble doesn't mean they are. Whatever was on the other side was gaining strength. You could find answers, the voice taunted. Or would you rather sit in the dark, hiding from what plagues you? That sudden challenge startled me to attention. I hadn't come here to hide. But what if I was getting in over my head? An urge to prove myself surged inside me. I pushed it down. We need to come up with a plan, I said, shaking off doubts. But we can't just ignore it. I'll open it, I found myself saying. The words left my mouth before I could think. Clara's eyes widened in horror. Are you crazy? Max exclaimed, but it felt as if the door was already pulling me in. Wait. Clara lunged forward but paused. Her breath caught. What if it's him? The revelation hit me like a punch. Grandpa. The secrets. The enemies. I hadn't thought of him in this context. But there it was. You think he's with them? I don't know, Clara said, panic leaking into her voice. Whoever it is, they're baiting us, Max warned. I still think we should leave. I stared at the door, the shadows flickering in the lantern's glow. Deep down, a part of me wanted to open it to confront whatever nightmare lay in wait. But then I recalled the stories Clara told us, about the families marked for punishment. Just then, as if sensing my hesitation, the knocking became frantic, insistent. The voice lifted. Let me in. Panic gripped my throat. With trembling hands, I reached for the door, and the moment I touched the handle, it twisted open on its own. I gasped. The light from the lantern flickered, and then everything went dark. Someone was in the house. I blinked, trying to adjust to the heavy darkness that swallowed everything around me. My heart hammered in my chest, echoing in the silence. I could see nothing. Clara's hand was still clutching my arm, her grip like a vice. I could tell she was just as bewildered as I was. Max? I whispered, but my voice sounded small, lost in the shadows. Right here, he replied, his voice steady, but I could sense the tension in it. Stay close. Then, in the suffocating dark, the air changed, thickening with an electric tension. A low, raspy breath filled the space, sounding as if it came from everywhere and nowhere at once. It made my skin crawl. I fought against the instinct to bolt out of the cabin. What do we do? I breathed out, afraid to disturb whatever was lurking. Find the lantern, Max said huskily. We need light. Just as I began to fumble my way back toward where we'd last seen the lantern, the voice returned crystal clear, though still layered with a haunting familiarity. Why did you leave me out? It asked, echoing inside my head. I froze. What do you mean? I ventured, straining to recognize it. Twilight quickly stretched into morning gold in my mind, but nothing clicked. Help me, it sounded desperate, tormented. What if it wasn't just the dark playing tricks on me? I recalled Grandpa's warnings about family curses, how seeking answers could lead to more shadows than light. Suddenly, the lantern flickered back to life, illuminating flecks of dust dancing in the air. It took me a moment to process what I was seeing. In the doorway stood a figure. It was a woman, her hair wild and tangled, stained with dirt. Her eyes shone with a maddening mix of hope and despair. But it wasn't her appearance that chilled me. It was the way she seemed to shimmer at the edges, like an image on the brink of fading. Can you help me? She pleaded, stepping further into the cabin. Who are you? I asked, my voice more forceful than I felt. The woman's gaze flickered past me to Clara and Max. I am part of your family. I'm here to find reconciliation. Clara gasped. What do you mean? But the woman shook her head, glancing down the hall behind us as if something unseen loomed there. "It's not safe," she warned, urgency bleeding into her voice. "You don't understand what you've awakened." I exchanged frantic looks with Max and Clara. "What do you know about our family?" I demanded. Would this be the moment we finally uncovered the truth? Or had we opened a door that should have remained shut forever? Everything she started, but before she could finish, the cabin rattled, shaking with a sudden force. Fear clawed at my throat as the shadows deepened again, swirling like a dark storm about to unleash its fury. The woman turned, eyes widening with dread. That S when I saw it behind her, an undulating darkness creeping forward, shapes emerging as if the very shadows were coming to life. My mind raced. "Get back," I cried, instinctively taking a protective step toward Clara. Then the cabin closed in around us, and the air shifted, heavy with malevolence. We were no longer alone. The cabin creaked ominously as the figure of the woman blurred away, swallowed up by the encroaching darkness. Panic surged in me. "Max, we need to go," I shouted, but the words felt thin, like they were being drawn back into the shadows. I turned to Clara, her eyes wide with fear. "Clara, we can't stay here." My heart pounded. The air thickened, making it hard to breathe. Shadows danced around us, pulling closer, whispering secrets just out of reach. "We can't leave her," Clara protested, her voice wavering. "She has family." "Family or not, she brought something with her," I countered, feeling the weight of my words. Fear twisted in my stomach. I grabbed Clara's arm, determined to pull her away. "We have to find another way out. Now." Max stood frozen, eyes fixed on the dark that seemed almost alive. "But what if she really can help us?" he said softly, his voice trembling at the edges. "Help us with what?" I demanded, but I didn't have the answer. All I felt was the pressing dread of whatever was lurking in the dark. "She said we awakened something. We need to be smart." With a sudden gust, the lantern flickered and then dimmed, its light barely illuminating the chaos. "This way," I urged, leading them toward the back door that led outside. As we moved, the shadows seemed to stretch, clawing at our heels like phantom fingers trying to drag us back into darkness. I nearly stumbled as I caught sight of a reflection, something glimmering on the floor. It was an old, cracked mirror half buried under debris. Hesitation gripped me, but I felt compelled to stop. "Wait, look at this." Max glanced back, his brow furrowing. "We don't have time, just look," I said, pointing. The surface of the mirror rippled. It was like staring through water. I could almost see faces, some familiar, others distorted, swirling in a chaotic dance of anguish and longing. "What is this?" Clara whispered, her voice dripping with awe and fear. "I don't know, but it feels like a memory." I reached out, half expecting to be pulled in or to feel something. But nothing happened. Just my reflection staring back, a hint of uncertainty flickering in my eyes. The other side of the cabin shuddered, the dark pressing forward. "We need to go," Max insisted, grasping my shoulder and pulling me back. "I have to know," I yelled over my shoulder. "There is something here that connects us to her." Before I could reach for the mirror again, a guttural growl echoed through the cabin. It was close, too close. I felt the hair on my arms stand up. "Go, go, go!" I screamed, breaking into a sprint for the door. In that moment, I realized something chilling. The shadowy deceptions weren't just after the woman, they were after me. After us. As we burst through the back door, we spilled into the damp air outside, gasping for breath. But the sense of safety was fleeting. Looking over my shoulder, I saw her figure again, standing in the threshold, shimmering and unyielding. "You can't run from your past," she shouted, voice breaking, and I felt my heart drop. "What does she mean?" I turned to Max and Clara, but the question burned in my throat. There was a deeper connection waiting for us, one that felt too dangerous to explore. And somehow, I knew our night was just beginning. We stumbled into the cold night, our breaths forming quick clouds in the damp air. I could still hear the echoes of her voice ringing in my ears, but I didn't have time to process it. A chill crawled up my spine as a whisper of wind rattled the nearby trees. "Where do we go?" Clara gasped, glancing around. The woods loomed at the edge of the cabin-esque clearing, darkness swallowing everything beyond the reach of the faint moonlight. "Anywhere but here," I said, my heart racing. I could sense the shadows creeping closer even in the open air. "Let's south head toward the road." Max frowned, visibly shaken. What if she's right? What if it's all connected? I felt frustration bubbling within me. What if it's not? We can't find out while we're standing here. But Clara wasn't listening. "Wait," she said softly, stepping back. "She might be trying to tell us something. We can't ignore this." I turned to Clara, desperation creeping into my voice. "You think she's going to help us?" "She brought whatever that was with her. We need to stay safe." As if to punctuate my words, a low growl echoed from the cabin. I felt your feet rooted to the ground in fear. The darkness swirled, almost beckoning us back. "Let us make a run for it," Max shouted, snapping me back to reality. With adrenaline surging, we sprinted into the shadowy embrace of the trees. Each step felt heavy, and my breath came out in ragged bursts. The air felt charged, almost electric, as if something unseen was watching us. As we pushed deeper into the woods, the sounds of the night enveloped us, whispers between the leaves and the distant rustle of wildlife. But there was another noise mixed in. A faint, rhythmic beating, like a pulse. "What is that?" Clara whispered, squinting into the void ahead. "I don't know," I breathed, "but it's getting louder." Suddenly, Max stopped dead in his tracks, and I nearly collided with him. "What if it's the thing we awakened?" He breathed, his face pale. I fought to keep my thoughts clear. "I don't think it's coming after us, not yet." But I could feel the dread creeping back, making it hard to swallow. "We have to keep moving." We hurried along a narrow path that wound through the dense trees. My eyes darted around, searching the gloom for any sign of danger. Then, out of the corner of my eye, something caught my attention, a flicker of light. "That way." I pointed, pushing through the underbrush. We stumbled into a small clearing illuminated by a flickering candle set against a warped tree trunk. In the center was a crudely drawn symbol, twisting and turning into itself, clearly ancient. It was hauntingly familiar. Clara rushed forward, her finger brushing over the drawing. "It looks like the symbol from the mirror," she exclaimed. Panic skittered in my gut. "What? No, it can't be," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "It's just a coincidence." "Is it?" Clara pressed, looking at me with wide eyes. "What if it means something? What if it connects us all?" As I scanned the clearing, my own reflection flickered in the candlelight, an image of my face, twisting like the symbol in front of me. I felt a wave of nausea. Then, a cracking sound echoed from the dark behind us. I turned slowly, dread pooling in my stomach, as the shadows seemed to shift and writhe. "Someone's in the woods," I breathed. The sensation of being watched intensified, and I felt like a target. "Run!" Max shouted, snapping me out of my stupor. We dashed for the trees, adrenaline kicking into overdrive. But I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was following us was connected to the very shadows we had fled. The path ahead disappeared into darkness, and the only way out was back to the cabin where it all began. I could hear the heartbeat now. It was loud, almost synchronized with my own. All I knew for certain was that we were caught in something much bigger than ourselves, and there was no escape without confronting our fate. The trees closed in around us, their branches clawing at the night sky. We ran, heartbeats pounding, ears straining to pick up any sound that indicated pursuit. I tried to focus on the path ahead, but my mind kept drifting back to the symbol. Why did it look so familiar? "Do you think we lost it?" Max panted, glancing over his shoulder. His eyes were wide, brimming with fear. "I hope so," I replied, but the word hung heavy in the air. It didn't feel right. There was something lurking just beyond our sight, something that made the very night feel alive. Suddenly, an eerie howl pierced the darkness, chilling my bones. "We need to find somewhere to hide," I yelled. There was no denying it now, we were not alone. Clara pointed to a cluster of boulders ahead, partially concealed by ivy and low-hanging branches. There. We can go there. We ducked behind the rocks, doing our best to quiet our breaths. The beating sound was still there, but now it felt like it was merging with the howl, twisting into an unholy symphony that surrounded us. What are we going to do? Clara whimpered, shaking with fear. This can't be happening. We need to wake up from this nightmare. Focus, I said, gripping her shoulders. The last thing we needed was panic. We have to think. That symbol, it has to mean something. Maybe there's a connection to whatever is out there. Max clutched at his chest, his face pale. We messed with something we weren't supposed to, didn't we? What if we opened a door we can't close? A flicker of movement caught my eye. Shoo! I hushed them, leaning closer to the crevice between the rocks to get a better look. Into the clearing walked a figure, cloaked in shadows. A hood obscured their face, but I could make out the glint of something, the reflection of moonlight on metal. My heart plummeted as I backed away. Who is it? Clara whispered, eyes wide. I don't know. I grated between clenched teeth, but it looks like they're searching for us. The figure seemed to hear my thoughts. They stopped and slowly turned, scanning the shadows with a predatory gaze. My blood went cold. It felt as if we were caught in the crosshairs of something ancient and relentless. Then, the howl rang out again, this time closer, and the figure raised a gloved hand. A low chant broke from their lips, echoing in the stillness. The words were foreign, twisting in the air like smoke. What are they saying? Max asked, a tremor in his voice. I have no idea, I said, my heart racing. This was the moment we were dreading, yet it was only the beginning of something more ominous. The figure began tracing a pattern in the air, fingers moving like a conductor guiding an unseen orchestra. An unexpected pain shot through my head. I doubled over, clutching my skull, overwhelmed by memories. Shadows raced through my mind, the mirror again. Clara's voice warning me. The symbols, and the flickering candle. Are you okay? Clara asked, panic rising. I think I know what that symbol means, I stammered. It's a call. It's trying to summon something. Suddenly, everything darkened. The candlelight flickered out, plunging us into complete darkness. The chanting rose to a fever pitch, and I realized the figure was no longer alone. Something was approaching, answering the call. With a swift motion, I pulled Clara and Max closer. We have to decide. Do we confront whatever this is? Or do we keep running? Then I saw it. An answer to my question emerged from the shadows, an evil presence that looked very much alive. But before I could react, the ground beneath us shifted, and everything began to collapse into chaos. Run! I yelled, but something was already dragging us back into the void. I bolted upright, gasping for air as I was ejected from the clutches of darkness that had consumed me. The earth rumbled beneath my feet as if the land was protesting our presence. I felt the panic rising in my throat, an instinctive fight or flight response kicking in. Get up! I shouted, urgency in my voice, grabbing Clara's arm. We have to move. We scrambled to our feet, the shadows swirling around us as if the trees themselves were alive, looming closer. The figure that had once sought us stood before the chaos, now nothing more than a horrific silhouette. I recognized in its stance the same urgency that enveloped us. Whatever we had awakened was not stopping for anyone. Follow me, I yelled, dashing deeper into the woods, uncertain of where I was leading us but desperate to escape whatever had emerged. Clara and Max hesitated only a moment before sprinting after me, fear igniting our adrenaline. The pounding in my chest matched the frantic beats reverberating through the forest. As we raced, vague memories of the cabin invaded my mind, the mirrored symbol, the whispered family secrets, the haunting echoes of the woman's voice. They were all threads pulling us back to something unfinished. Suddenly, I stumbled, nearly colliding with Max. What's wrong? I gasped. The darkness seemed heavier here, oppressive. There's nowhere to go. He shouted back, his voice thick with panic. The chant had morphed into an unsettling chorus, echoing through the trees. I could hear the approach of something fierce, relentless in its pursuit of whatever we disturbed. There, Clara pointed, gesturing toward an old shed we overlooked. The door hung ajar, beckoning us with a whispered promise of refuge. I glanced back, the figure emerging from the shadows, moving with purpose. Don't look back. In there now. We pushed through the door, nearly falling over one another to get inside. I shut the door tightly, the wooden frame creaking ominously under the weight of our collective fear. The darkness engulfed us once again. Only this time there was a lantern on a dusty crate, its light flickering weakly. As I lit it, the pattering of the wind outside became a distant memory. We were huddled together, trying to catch our breath. What do we do now? Clara whispered, her voice shaky as she peered out through a crack in the door. They'll find us, she added numbly. They won't dare come inside, right? This is their territory, Max said, uncertainty creeping into his tone. I don't know, I replied. My mind raced with the weight of the past, the memories we had unearthed. There had been warnings about staying away from the family's secrets, but now it felt like those secrets were the only thing protecting us from whatever lay outside. Unsure how, but compelled to find answers, I turned and scanned the small space, littered with potential relics of our family's history. On a shelf, battered journals beckoned, their pages yellowed and fraying. I could feel something significant urging me closer. Don't, Clara said, instinctively grasping my arm. We can't keep digging into this. I need to see, I replied, trying to shake off her grip. If there was one thing I was sure of, it was that we wouldn't escape this by hiding. If there's something in here that could provide answers, a loud bang jolted us, as something slammed against the shed door. I scarcely registered the terrified look on Max's face as I ripped a journal from the shelf, flipping through the faded pages. My heart sank. The entries chronicled the same grim realities we had been warned about. Look, it's all connected to the land, these rites, these dark happenings, I gasped. My grandfather was part of it, he didn't just make mistakes, he was involved. Get rid of it, Clara cried, her eyes wide. You can't read this. It's tainted. This might be our only chance to know how to stop this. I shouted back, raising my voice over the pounding against the door. Suddenly, the shed trembled as another force crashed into it, rattling the very foundation. I could hear whispers, gleeful and twisted, creeping through every crack. We don't have time, Clara urged, shaking with urgency. What if it's too late? In a split moment I made a choice, realizing I had been torn for too long. You're right, but we can't do this alone. I turned toward the door, heart pounding in a desperate mix of bravery and despair. We need the others. We need to face it together. What do you mean? Max asked slowly, discerning. Whatever lies beyond, it's tied to my family. Let us not run from it. We have to confront it. Do you trust me? I looked from Clara to Max, awaiting their answer. Yes. Clara nodded, eyes brimming with tears, determination growing deeper. Let us do it, Max said, as the shed quaked once more. Resolute, I threw open the door and stepped out into the night. The chanting paused, and for a split second, I felt a curious peace wash over me. Shadows flickered in anticipation, and just for a brief moment, I could sense whatever we had awakened did not desire destruction. It desired acknowledgement. We're here, I yelled, certain that we would break the cycle of silence, the chains of our past. And from the darkness came a cacophony of voices, an answer, orchestrating a haunting melody that had been waiting for so long. The air thickened around us, and I found my gaze drawn toward the figure that now stood before us, a convergence of memories and shadows, family and fate. Whatever came next was beyond our control, and I realized in that instant, the final destination was a mystery waiting to unfold, the answers still lurking just out of reach. There would be no clean break from the past, only confrontation,